Hello everyone and welcome to RcHelpDotCom. I'm Tony, and in the last video I basically showed you what my first step was on this radio. I went in, I put my name into the radio, and I made it mine. I made sure it was on mode 2. I made sure that the screen contrast was correct, the language was correct, which it was sold in the USA, so it's going to be English. I also went in and made sure my voltage alarm was set correctly, which I have mine at 4.3 volts. And I also double checked my receipt versus the serial number that is in the menu. All that checked out great. Now in this video, we're going to be doing the very first steps in setting up a model. I know you guys want to fly. I want to get this video, get it done, so you guys can go out there and have fun with your brand new DX8. First thing you need to do, click the top of the roller, turn your radio on. Now you're in the system setup menu. What you want to do is you want to go to model select. Obviously every one of these are going to be set just like that, acro. That's how they come from the factory. Don't ask me why they put it on aircraft instead of helicopters. I think they're prejudiced against helis. But you'll want to select more than likely model 1. I'm going to go down here and let's just select model 20. We're going to go in that. Okay, we're on model 20, so what we'll do, go in here, select airplane. That will be reset. Alright, now we're on an airplane model. Now we need to put in the model name. Now just like on every menu, you have 10 characters that you can put in here to name your model. How about we name it airplane? Go up here to back. Now also, if you don't want to scroll up to the back button, you can just hit this button right here and go back. Now, the model name's in there. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out the wing type. As I'm sure you guys know, there are a number of different wing types. As you can see, dual aileron, flaperon, one aileron, one flap, one aileron, two flaps, two ailerons, one flap, two aileron, two flap, and elevon. Those are your wing types. If you're doing like a flying wing, you want elevon, but if you're doing like a standard trainer, you'll probably want one of these two menus here. I always run dual ailerons because I find the setup so much more simple than doing it with just one servo. I find this to be the biggest pain in the butt of any of the setups on any plane. But you guys pick your wing. Like I said, I usually choose this one, so that's what we're going to choose. Now we need to select our tail. Now there are different configurations on tails. You've got your normal tail, which has your elevator and rudder. Then you've also got your V-tail, your dual elevator with single rudder, your dual rudder with single elevator, dual rudder and dual elevator. Most everybody is going to be running this one or this one right here. So we're going to do, set it on just a normal tail because that's what most everybody is going to be using on any trainer. Now that we've got our wing type done, click back. Now we want to go into switch select. Now in this menu you can select different switches for different functions. Let's say we'll go over here to flaps. Right now it's on the auxiliary 1 port. You can turn that off or leave it on the auxiliary 1 port. But let's say that you wanted the gear to be on auxiliary 1. We would put that on inhibit, go down here to gear, and then put this one on auxiliary 1. Now what we can do is we can go back up here, we can put this one on the gear switch if we wanted to. You can come in here and you can play with every one of these. Now let's turn them all to inhibit. Now with them all in inhibit, what we can do, we'll say the right trim button. That's this button right here. That all these buttons they're programmable to do what you want them to do. They don't have a specific function. Go in here, we can put it on the gear channel, auxiliary 1, auxiliary 2, or auxiliary 3, since we shut every one of these off. Now in this menu you pretty much need to come in and make this your own. Obviously airplanes are not really going to use an F mode, but if you had something that you wanted to put on the F mode channel, you can select which channel you want that to be. Obviously if you're using like a DX8, then you're only going to have your gear, auxiliary 1. That's the only two channels you're going to have. That's channel 7, that's channel 8. So the two free receivers that actually come with this, I wouldn't be able to use auxiliary 2 and auxiliary 3, so I've only got auxiliary 1 and gear to figure out what I want to do with different servos. Say I wanted to put, you know, a candy drop door or something along those lines. This is exactly how you would pick what switch you wanted to do what. Once you're done in this menu setting up all your switches for everything that you have on your airplane, click back And we'll go in here to trim setup. Trim setup is a really good feature, especially for that maiden flight. You know, when you throw that plane in the air and you got to get it trimmed out really fast. This is the menu you want to be on to set this up. Basically what we'll do, throttle we don't have to worry about, left and right trim we don't have to worry about, but these three right here, you really want to be able to trim this thing out as fast as possible on that first throw or that first takeoff. What this is going to do, right now, each time I click a trim tab, it's going to go 5 steps. But I can go in here, turn it all the way up to 10 steps, so that I don't have to click this as much, and it's going to move that control surface more per click to help me get this thing trimmed out correctly. After the maiden flight, you've got it flying pretty good. You might have to hold a little bit of stick into it to get it to fly level. Come back into this menu, click back in here, and then lower this down to 1, 2, 3, somewhere in that area. That'll allow you to fine-tune those control surfaces. I always leave mine set on 5 because most of the stuff that I fly has analog servos, and 1 step is not going to do much on an analog servo. If you have good digital servos, by all means put this thing 2, 3, somewhere in that area, and you'll be able to fine-tune each individual control surface and make that plane fly perfect in the air every single time. Click back. Now let's say you made a bunch of changes and they don't really work out and you just rather just start over. What you can do is you can click in here and model reset, and obviously it's going to give you your model name, the model number, and it'll tell you, look, the data's fixing to be reset. You can either cancel or you can reset. Quite honestly, I don't want to reset nothing, so I'm going to click back. Now model copy, what I can do is I can select the airplane model. Let's say I didn't want it on position 20. Great, we'll go in here and we'll select which one of these I want to put it on. This is really good if you want to move around your models. The way I found it easiest was to actually download everything to the card, put the card in your computer, and then move everything around in Notepad or something. Click back out of that. Now in the warnings menu, basically what this is going to do is when you turn this radio on, it is going to moan and groan at you that something is not where it's supposed to be. If the throttle is a little bit too high, which on here over 10%, if I have the flaps deployed, it's going to tell me about it. If I had this gear back here deployed, it would tell me about it if I had it on. Then it's going to give you the option, how do you want to be notified about this? Do you want a tone? Do you want to vibrate? Or do you want both of them together? This right here is the stock way this thing's going to look when you go into it. Now down here on the throttle, you've got over 10%, or you can do under 10%, or you can just turn it off. I don't know why anybody would want to go under 10%, quite honestly, but you could if you wanted to. Then you got over. Click out of it and then scroll to the right. Now it's going to allow you to adjust your percentage. What is the highest percent you want this throttle to be able to be at before it starts setting off an alarm? I like it at 10% because I want this throttle all the way down, especially if I'm plugging in a plane and it has its propeller on, or I'm plugging in a helicopter and the blades are on it. I want to know this is down. I want to know this is down, the F mode switch. I want to make sure nothing is going to spin up on me and cut me or something like that. Click out of that. On your gear, you've got your different positions. Now obviously on the gear, you've only got a 2-position switch, so you've only got position 1, position 0. Which one of those do you want it to gripe at you about when you turn this radio on? If you have retracts, I would set something on the gear. I always do position 0 for landing, position 1 for up in the air flying, because down has down retracts, up retracts. That's just the way I do it. I would put this to where if I'm not in position 0, I want it to tell me, because if I turn my radio on and then I plug my airplane in, the first thing that thing is going to do is suck them retracts up underneath it, and we got some damage to the bottom of our plane. Our model does not have a gear, so no worries. Now your flaps, that's this switch right here. You can either turn it off, go to mid, land, which I'm guessing land is position 2, I'm not 100% sure, mid and land, and then normal and land, to where I guess they want you right in the middle. Since we don't have flaps, we're just going to put that on inhibit. We know we want the throttle to let us know if it's above 10%. I want to be warned in every way possible. If I'm listening to loud music, I want this thing sitting here vibrating across my desk or across the table, across whatever you happen to have this thing on. Once you're done setting that up, click back out of it. If you're going to run telemetry, and I'm not going to get into this right now, but if you're going to, this is the menu you go into. We will get into the telemetry a little bit later. Frame rate. If you are setting up a model and you put digital servos all around this sucker, you're running one of the receivers that come with the radio, so it's a DSMX, you can take this and select it to 11 milliseconds. That's your response time on your sticks. Do not put it on 11 milliseconds if you're running analog servos. Make sure you will not damage a digital servo by putting it on 22 milliseconds, but I'm guessing you will damage an analog servo by putting it on 11 milliseconds. And then once you got that selected, go down here and just click the button to select between DSM2, DSMX. That's your preference, what receiver you're running, what your bind and fly is, along those lines. Once you're done with that, click back. If you're going to be using a trainer, again, just like the telemetry, I'm not getting into this one. If you're going to be buddy boxing, this is the menu that you're going to want to be in. Now, if you got a buddy that has your airplane and they have the DX8, you can download his program onto your radio. Make sure one of you has a card, put it in his radio, then we'll go in here, we'll select an option. What we want to do on his radio is we want to export a model. So we will click export, we will figure out which one we want. You can save whatever name you want, and then we'll click export, and that's going to put it on our card. Now that it's on the card, shut your radio off, take the card out, go down here, and then you want to select import model. Now, we've got all these models here. We imported this out on number 20. Now, as you can see, there's two 20s on here, and one is acro and the other one is airplane. Obviously, the one that we're doing is airplane, so we know we want to import that model. Click it, and that's it. It imported. Obviously, I already had it programmed in here. I took it off my radio and put it back on my radio, so it might have went a little bit faster than it would, but that is the basic way that you transfer settings from the memory card from another person's radio onto the DX8. No, you cannot transfer from a DX7S to a DX8. I don't know why they made it proprietary to just DX8s, but they did, and that's the only way you can do it. So guys, I hope you learned a little bit about how to set up your very first model. Most people are going to start out with an airplane. We will be getting into the helicopter setup in the next video. So make sure right up here you click that subscribe button, because there are going to be a ton of videos on this radio. It is a great radio. Congratulations on your purchase. If you're thinking about purchasing this radio, stop thinking, go do it now. Go get it. If you have any questions on this, just come over to the forum and ask away. There's pretty much always someone on there that has your answers, and all you got to do, come in, ask your questions, and we'll help you out in any way we can. Guys, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget, click that subscribe button up there. There's going to be a lot more videos on this radio coming up here real soon. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.